According to the Department of Homeland Security, some of the 24 undocumented immigrants have suspected ties to human and drug trafficking.
Homeland Security officials today identified 6 men they say are suspects in a human and drug trafficking ring.
Wisconsin just witnessed one of the most coordinated ICE operations in years. Before dawn, federal agents stormed multiple properties across Manitowoc County, arresting 24 illegal aliens tied to a human and drug trafficking ring. The raid came after a joint federal investigation that started months earlier when victims, including children, told the FBI about being exploited by the same criminal network. What began as a single trafficking case soon uncovered a much larger pipeline that stretched across several states and ran straight through the heart of Wisconsin. Federal officials confirmed that the targets were part of an illegal network accused of smuggling narcotics, moving people, and using migrant routes for criminal gain. Many of those arrested already had criminal records, including assault, DUI, identity theft, and child exploitation. And several had been deported before, but slipped back into the country under new identities to rebuild their operation. The targets were not small-time offenders. Investigators say this was a structured ring that relied on forged documents, coded communications, and fake employment records to blend into small towns. Agents tracked their movements for months, piecing together surveillance footage, phone data, and vehicle logs that showed how deeply the group had embedded itself in local communities. The network used rural warehouses, motel rooms, and abandoned farmhouses as transit points where migrants were held and drugs were stored. Cash flowed through small businesses acting as fronts, restaurants, garages, and delivery companies that helped hide illegal shipments. Each part of the network served a clear purpose: recruit, transport, exploit, and profit. The operation began in the early hours of September 25, 2025. Tactical teams from ICE, the FBI, and the U.S. Marshals Service moved in together in a multi-site raid designed to hit every target at once. Residents woke up to flashing lights, helicopters circling above, and the sound of agents breaking through doors. Entry teams cleared properties one by one, pulling suspects from basements, garages, and vehicles. Flashbangs were used to stun armed suspects, while K-9 units searched for hidden compartments. Within hours, every location on the list had been secured. Federal command confirmed all 24 targets were in custody, and dozens of victims were rescued from locked rooms and vehicles. By sunrise, Manitowoc County was locked down. Streets were filled with unmarked SUVs and local police assisting with roadblocks. Officials called it one of the largest and most precise anti-trafficking operations ever executed in the region. Federal agents emphasized that this was not random enforcement. It was the result of months of planning, coordination, and intelligence gathering across multiple agencies. What they found in Wisconsin was proof that human and drug trafficking networks are no longer limited to the southern border. They are operating deep inside the country, hiding in plain sight. And on that morning, the system that had profited from silence finally came crashing down. Federal officials confirmed 24 arrests in total, each directly linked to the same trafficking and drug network.
Deanna Derrick, state prosecutors say he raped a 14-year-old girl last fall, had 2 runaway girls staying at his house. But 12 News discovered he was already in custody when the feds say they made that roundup last Thursday. He's one of 24 people immigration agents say are suspected in a drug and human trafficking ring.
Every suspect is now in federal custody facing both criminal and immigration charges. Among those taken down were repeat offenders with long histories of violent crime, including sexual assault, drug possession, and hit-and-run offenses. Several had been deported before, only to return and rebuild the same operation under false names and fake documents. Prosecutors say the charges range from human trafficking and narcotics distribution to re-entry after deportation and conspiracy. Officials also confirmed that indictments for money laundering and document fraud are expected as more evidence is processed. For investigators, the arrests mark the dismantling of what they call a cross-border enterprise disguised as migration. According to ICE and FBI agents on the ground, the group used migrant transport routes to move both people and drugs across the Midwest. Victims, many of them undocumented migrants, were trafficked for labor and, in some cases, sexual exploitation. In exchange, traffickers demanded money or silence. Agents said that the same vehicles used to move migrants were also used to transport heroin, methamphetamine, and counterfeit pills hidden inside food shipments. The network relied on stash houses in Manitowoc County and neighboring towns to store narcotics, cash, and forged IDs before distribution. Financial tracking by IRS crime analysts revealed large deposits and transfers moving through shell companies registered under stolen identities. The evidence showed a level of organization far beyond a local operation. One senior agent described it as a mobile system, built to move people, money, and drugs in the same flow. The takedown itself was carried out by a coalition of agencies: ICE Homeland Security Investigations, the FBI, DEA, U.S. Marshals, Customs and Border Protection, and IRS financial crime units. Each handled a specific role: surveillance, intelligence, enforcement, and money tracing. Over 3 months, analysts gathered phone records, drone footage, and banking data linking the suspects across state lines. When the case reached full readiness, ICE coordinated the timing of every breach to ensure no suspect could flee. DHS officials later praised the precision, calling it a textbook example of joint enforcement. They emphasized that each arrest was intelligence-driven, built through evidence, informants, and forensic work, not random targeting. ICE leadership issued a short statement afterward. Every arrest represents a victim freed and a trafficking route shut down. Federal commanders added that the raid was part of a broader nationwide campaign against organized human trafficking cells operating under the cover of migration. Their message was direct: exploitation will not be tolerated, and no border policy can shield criminal activity once it crosses into U.S. communities. The raid shook Manitowoc County awake. Residents who had lived for years in quiet neighborhoods watched as black SUVs and unmarked vans filled the streets before sunrise. They described the sound of helicopters, flashbangs, and agents calling commands through loudspeakers. When the operation ended, the scale of what had been uncovered became clear. Investigators found safehouses with hidden rooms, bundles of cash, false documents, and drug packaging materials. Neighbors said they were shocked that such a large criminal network had existed quietly around them, hidden behind normal homes and small businesses. Many expressed relief, calling the operation long overdue. Some said it finally explained the unusual traffic and noise they had noticed late at night. For the community, it was both a moment of fear and reassurance. Fear that it had been happening so close, and reassurance that someone had finally stopped it. Federal prosecutors in Wisconsin are now reviewing evidence for both criminal and immigration charges. Officials say indictments are being prepared for human trafficking, narcotics conspiracy, and re-entry after deportation. The arrests reignited debate across the state about border enforcement and cooperation with ICE. Supporters praised the strike as necessary to protect vulnerable people from exploitation, while critics questioned the scale of the raid and the heavy use of tactical units. Local leaders faced pressure to explain how such an operation could grow without detection. Civil liberties groups announced they would monitor upcoming trials to ensure proper legal process. But DHS officials stood firm, saying this was not a political move. It was law enforcement. These were not families. These were traffickers, one ICE spokesperson said. Our job is to stop them before more victims are created. The statement was followed by praise from national officials, who said the Wisconsin case proved that multi-agency coordination works and that the U.S. must continue to pursue similar targets across the Midwest. Federal sources warned that the Manitowoc raid was not an isolated case. Intelligence suggests that similar trafficking and drug networks are already active in nearby states, using the same migrant routes and recruitment tactics. The Wisconsin strike is now seen as part of a broader campaign, the first in a series of actions aimed at cutting off transnational crime operating inside U.S. borders. Officials said new task forces are being formed to track related groups in Minnesota, Illinois, and Michigan. They described the operation as the opening move in a long-term effort to dismantle cross-border exploitation. For the agents who carried out the raid, the mission is far from over. Every arrest, every seized record, and every victim statement becomes another piece of a larger puzzle. The message from Washington remains the same. The United States will protect its communities, and those who traffic people or drugs under the cover of migration will be found. The crackdown, they said, is only beginning.